Welcome to the Safe Life family. We're the Safety Guys. I'm Landon.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're excited you're joining us on the journey from Safety 101 to Safety Experts. Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Yeah. Hope you are excited to see what we're going to talk about today.
And we hope you've been safe.
Buddy System was our last one.
Yes. And now is Buddy System 2.0. We'll call it either 2.0 or part 2, whatever feels best in your minds.
Yep, I agree.
But this principle is brought to you by, I guess, maybe a little bit. But the reason behind this principle is a story in your life. Would you mind sharing it with us?
Yeah. We lived in Denver, Colorado, and my dad traveled an awful lot. And for whatever reason, I always liked police officers. And we had one that lived about a block from us that would always stop off, as he's going home, and we're out playing little sports games, and we'd all run out and see how his day was. And anyway, he realized that my dad was gone an awful lot, and he got permission from my mom to just try to give some of the safety tips to us as a family. Denver was changing just a little bit with a little more criminal activity, but he asked my mom to create a safety word. And since then, I've heard a lot of kids say, yeah, my safety word is really, really hard. But he didn't want to have it very hard. He asked us to try to come up with something that maybe a grandma or grandpa had passed away. And at the time, my grandma had died. And so my mom just said, okay, and didn't think about it a whole lot. But she says, okay, our safety word, if you're in trouble, and you can't just say, Mom, I'm in trouble, or this guy's he's got a knife, or whatever the situation was over the phone. Just say, did Grandma arrive yet? Did she arrive? Or whatever you can use, but Grandma was the key word for us. And at the time, as a young teenager, I thought this is the stupidest thing in the whole wide world.
What teenager would think that?
I'm never going to get in trouble. There's no boogeyman that ever lives I'm going to have to say, my grandma. But anyway, one night it did happen. And we have used it in our family since then on a couple of occasions. Matter of fact, just recently, I had an occasion to use it with my wife. So it is a really critical thing it's one of the things that I would have in every family's toolbox.
And I think we may get some flack for thinking, oh, you're too extreme, but we're full believers in if you're prepared for something, you're going to be better off. And what a difference between you sometimes shared an experience with us when you were teaching us this principle, but how long of time had elapsed from when this police officer had met with your family before you had to use it?
And that was where the wisdom came in to do something simple that everybody remembered, because I would dare to bet it was at least 4 years.
Wow.
Before I had to actually use it that night that this happened. And you want me to share that story just briefly?
Definitely.
I had a friend that his father was very wealthy, but because of that, he always headed out of town and had these parties. And most of the time, they were really decent parties. We tried. I had 12 of the best friends in the world that we all had different types of fathers and some situations that we just wanted a little bit different life than what they had. So one of our things was we tried to go to these parties that were just lots of fun, not the drug parties, not even the alcohol. But this particular night, my friend's, his name was Kelly, his older brother brought some really rough people to the party. And it wasn't supposed to be his party, it was Kelly's. And anyway, when we walked in, and this is before tattoos have become very popular, but this particular guy right off the bat, he just had tattoos everywhere. And it shocked every one of us when we kind of walked in. And he got right into all of our faces and said, well, who are you guys? And who invited you? And of course, Kelly says, back off. These are my friends. This is my party. And he goes, nope, this is the old people party. And anyway, they actually were doing drugs on kitchen table. And he says, you guys are all going to rat us out. And of course, we're just scared to death.
On what do you do? That's no training has happened yet, right?
Well, anyway, he threatened to make us all do these drugs. And some of my friends started to cry. He looked at me, and I just kind of didn't know what to do for a second. Then all of a sudden, I remembered our safety family word. And so I told this individual, I said, well, this is really a cool party, because I really thought he was going to have him and his buddies really tune us up, or even worse. And I says, I just got a report in with my mom that I made it safe to the party. And he got really irritated at me. He says, you're going to tell your mom, and screaming and hollering and throwing some things around. I says, no, you can listen to the whole conversation. And he goes, oh, I will. And he was only about a foot from me, staring me. I mean, when I'm talking to my mom, I think my voice was cracking and everything, but
how could it not?
scared to death.
Yeah.
But anyway, I told my mom, and I never had, I should have had this reporting system on, but my mom trusted me, and she was a little naive about what the world could have dealt me. But anyway, I said, Mom, I'm at the party. It's really, really, really a cool party, and I'll be home at, the curfew. And my mom, you could tell by her voice, she's like, what is he doing? This is weird. He doesn't do this.
I take it you didn't generally check in at the party.
No, that's why I'm so passionate about having the lessons for everyone else. So I said, by the way, Mom, did Grandma get into town? And all of a sudden there was silence on the other end of the phone. And I'm hoping she's saying something to save me and rescue me. And like, Mom.
No.
Well, as I'm doing that, the bad guy gets closer and has a little bit more of an evil look in his eyes. And I says, I just wanted to know if she's in town. And then finally, thank heavens, my mom said, yeah, I just didn't know how to say this, Kevin, but she's dying. And I'm like, what? And she says, you probably should come home. I'm sorry to ruin your night, but you probably should come home. So, in case, something happens tonight, at least you could say goodbye to your grandma. And I was like, really? Tonight? I got to miss this party? And I was trying to make it look like this party was the coolest thing ever. And she says, please, Kevin, will you? And he's listening to everything that's going on. And I still remember it to this day. I get off the phone and he looks right at me and he goes, bummer, dude. I mean, such compassion from a perfect idiot, bad guy. Well, anyway, my mom, she freaked out so much and I was just heading home. It wasn't too far from where we lived. And I hear this car screeching its tires, and here she comes and she's just screaming. She doesn't know whether to spank me, to love me, to talk. She's just like, what's happened? What's happened? I says, Mom, this safety word was a darn good thing. And it people don't realize that you're screaming 911 when you can't really scream 911.
Yeah. And that's, I think, maybe where some of that concern of, oh, it's a little too extreme, but what if there is a situation where you may not be able to speak loudly, or there might be some real challenges of asking for help in the moment? How simple is it to ask a question or have that simple family, hey, are we gonna grill pineapples on the weekend? Whatever.
Well, keep it simple,
right?
Because it might go 4, 5, 6, maybe 20 years before you need it. And you just, for some reason, you always remember something that serious, a loss of a loved one.
Right. And it can't be easily confused either.
Mm-hmm.
To know, okay, a question's being asked that's not a normal question.
Well, in our family, we used it twice, 2.5 times. 2.5 is a little bit complicated, but can I share with my wife, Landon's mom? She was down in the hospital. She's supposed to be at the hospital with her father, and I thought everything was okay. And I called her, and she's whispering. She's like, "Can I call you back?" And I gotta go now. And so she hangs up, and I'm going, what in the world would she have to do that for, unless there was some kind of serious problem? So I texted her. I thought, well, if the bad guy gets to see the text, I can't say, are you in trouble or anything else? So I just texted my wife. I said, are you going to go stop and visit Grandma? while you're in Utah. And she immediately said, I am not in trouble. And she told me why she had to whisper. And
Coast is clear.
oh boy, what a relief it was. It was really, really a good feeling. So I'm glad we still have that kind of safety word that nobody will know that we're saying, okay, but if you need help, then at least we can, if you do the buddy system and let your parents know and your kid where you're at, then somebody can send help to you.
I know it may sound odd, but even it still gives me confidence and almost just a feeling of peace to know, okay, if there ever was something, we truly live in a wonderful area, obviously in a wonderful country, that we don't have to worry about all of the challenges that others may face. But to know if something were to happen, there's a cavalry word. I mean, probably not the right analogy, but there's something that we can do to help or get help in that situation. And growing up, it was always great that I knew you also gave us permission to, Dad, you're the meanest, right? After we were to have to use that to say, oh, you're going to make me come home from this awesome party. Like, come on, these are my best friends. You're ruining my life. Obviously, that'd be a little bit of an act if you were in that situation, but it really gave me confidence to know, okay, one, I know if I ever were to say that, my dad would be there for me. Or just my dad would have called the cops and said, hey, I send them to that party. We know something's going sideways. So for what it's worth, yes, maybe it can inspire some amount of fear on some level, but when you're prepared, there's no reason to be afraid, or even worried. Sure, something can happen. And I think when you look at the whole premise of what we try to accomplish on this podcast, our goal is to help people be safer. And sure, something's still going to happen. We would love to have a show or something that made sure everyone was good, nothing bad would happen. But what a great way to prepare.
Mm-hmm. People think, well, this is a crisis situation, that there's only one way out. And for my story I told there, I don't know what would have happened. I know that I was scared to death and just a teenager. But another fun story is a friend of ours was going to school, and she had made some commitments to have some very high standards. And she roommated with some girls that were just crazy wild, but they loved her. And spring break was coming up, and these girls had actually packed her bags, met her at the last class she was in that particular day before spring break, and said, we're going to Vegas, and you're going to finally understand what partying's all about. Well, inside, she didn't quite have that maturity to just basically maybe say, hey, look, I've chose this life, and if you don't respect it, I'm sorry. I still like to be your friends if you could respect my decisions. But
I don't know anyone who would have that level of confidence.
Yeah, maybe when you get 60 or so, you can stand up for what you believe in. But what ended up happening was she called her father. She was a dear friend of ours, and she was telling her father, and her father trusted her. Said, hey, Dad, I'm for spring break. Sorry I didn't let you know sooner. I'm going down to Vegas with my friends here. And anyway, she had the grandma word. And when she said that, this dad was quick thinker, and said, oh, sweetie, I should have called you last night. But he used the same thing because the story that she's way sick and we need to go visit her so you can say goodbye before she died. And all these girls are around, and this young lady couldn't tell them, this is our 911 emergency word. But the girls were very respectful, helped her get her bags instead of in their car, in this young woman's car, and she got out of the deal. I guess when she got home, she gave her dad the biggest hug and said, I didn't know how to get out of this without, and it wasn't a crisis, but she just knew that there'd be some of her, she'd have to lower her standards if she went to this Vegas thing to kind of fit in with her peers.
And protected relationships.
Oh, yeah.
How cool is that those individuals were willing to say, oh, we're so sorry. Yeah, no arguments, no fights, no even ill feelings. I'm
Yeah.
sure they went and had a wonderful weekend. And
Well, on their standards,
fair enough.
they might have forgot everything they did that weekend, which would be sad. But
That's the reason why it stays in Vegas, I guess.
I guess.
But a little bit of preparation, that discussion with your family, making sure that it's simple, you can remember it, is really going to pay dividends for your entire life. I know I could, just because of our family, I know that in a situation, if I couldn't get a hold of one of my family members, I could ask another. And, here's the safe phrase, and it's simple, good question. I can have support. I can have the help that I need, because frankly, I don't know what to do in many situations, and having that support matters.
And when you're young, you just don't. You don't have that experience, that life experience, and sometimes it's just too hard to tell them, what's in your heart. It's like this little group of gals. They were all really good friends, but they, that might have destroyed a friendship. Who knows? And then they got a room together, or she's got to get out of that roommate situation. So anyway,
that can definitely help in so many different ways. So we hope that choose a safety word, safety phrase, or maybe even safety question, and connect with your family, connect with an individual. Once again, got to find a buddy, whether that's local community member or family members, a roommate, whoever it might be. Of course, choose carefully who you tell that specific safety word to, because you don't want to be in a situation where maybe the individual can use that against you. So what's our call to action today? What do we need the viewers to do?
No matter how much money you make sure you save 10% of it.
All right. Safety guy minute. I like it. And I think be safe. That'll be the other one for today.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us.
See ya.
If you feel like we helped guide you in your journey to a safer life or home,
or if you just think we're awesome,
please follow us for more. After all, who doesn't like a thumbs up or a subscribe?